Welcome, everybody. This is Eric Stewart, and I'm thrilled to be with you today. I've got just a couple more people sign in. I'll be back in 15 seconds. Just want to make sure everybody gets in that wants to be here. Also, if you would, on your GoToWebinar control panel on your screen, if you open it up, you'll see a questions tab. I would like for you to just type in, I'm here, or I hear you, something like that. I just want to make sure that our technology is working. So again, go to the GoToWebinar control panel where it says questions. Just open it up and type in a comment. I'm here. I just want to know that you all hear me fine. Technology, can be funky, and I don't want anybody to miss what I'm saying. I'll be right back. Welcome, everybody. So here we go. So I've got, appreciate you guys joining me today. Tim, thanks. Laudine, Anna, Willie, thanks, guys. I appreciate you and everybody else here has acknowledged that you're here. In the GoToWebinar control panel, if you hear me and you haven't already done so, please open the questions tab and type in I'm here or I can hear you, just so I know that you're here today. Okay, thanks. So quick question before I get started. If you can type an answer to this question into the GoToWebinar control panel under the questions tab, I'd appreciate it. How many of you guys are here for the Coffee with Eric Stewart portion of our conversation today? Are you familiar with what that is, or did you hear about it on the radio, or get any information about that online? I'd love to hear if you guys are here for that specifically, because that's a piece of what I want to discuss today, as well as how do you prepare to get your home on the market to get top dollar. Let me know there on the GoToWebinar control panel. Good. So hey, Wayne, no audio. Actually, Wayne, the audio, unfortunately, if your audio is not working, but you can see the screen, you probably need to get your volume up, or get your speakers plugged back in, or plug in. Maybe you've got a headset plugged into your computer. Okay. All right, great. So guys, if you're here for the Coffee with Eric Stewart portion, I'd love to hear. We've got this new format. We're focusing, a part of our conversation will be today on where are we in this real estate market, and how long is this market going to run for before we see it come to its conclusion as a the bull run that we're experiencing. We all wait and want this. Great. Hey, Willie, thanks so much. Good. And fantastic, Laudine. Thank you so much for that. And Tim, okay, good. All right, fantastic. So we'll be covering, again, preparing. I'll talk about the market, and I want to open this webinar is going to be a bit different. We're going to open this up to questions along the way. As I'm saying anything here, I want you to pop your question into the GoToWebinar control panel. You all see that. And let me ask a quick question here. My panel, I assume, is the same as yours. Is it easy for you to see the questions tab on your GoToWebinar control panel, that you're able to open that up easily and just type in something? I just want to make sure it's obvious to everybody, if you don't mind. I have not been on your side of this equation, I guess is what I'm saying. Great. Okay, Wayne, thanks for that. All right, so we want to prepare our homes for sale. A little bit about me. Those of you who just don't really know who I am, I'm just giving this as background, not to build myself up, but I want you to understand my background. I come from a family of physicians. My grandfather was the chief of orthopedics at Walter Reed, and was a pioneer in prosthetics. He's an orthopedic surgeon following World War II. My great aunt Florence Kendall wrote the primer for all physical therapy called Muscles, Testing, and Function with her husband. It's considered the primer for all PTs. It's a requirement to become a PT to go through that book. It's phenomenal. My dad, chief of staff at Columbia Hospital for Women in Washington, D.C., which is now defunct and was turned into condos many years ago, but he was an OBGYN, and my other grandfather was head of the Shriners Hospital in Oahu. I never liked biology, but I love working with people, and I think a lot like my family does about going through this process and trying to guide you on how you can get your life into a great place with your move. Capture top dollar, make it as easy as possible, get from here to there, cross the bridge of selling, and that's what I've perfected and perfected and perfected. Obviously, there's no perfection in this. It's a practice, right? Real estate practice. But in 34 years of doing this, starting when I was 23, I've sold over 3,600 homes. We sell 160 homes plus annually. I'm a seniors real estate specialist, and I have a group in my team that focuses. So if you're a downsizer, or what I call a right sizer, to find the right size of place for where you are in life, and you've got a lot of stuff and you need somebody who knows how to guide you through that, Helen, Debbie, Jim, other people in my group are seniors real estate specialists and understand how to disseminate the things that you own, help you get through those things. Today we'll cover how to make those decisions in part, and our team is excellent at that, can work with you and move managers to help you. Also, you've got Dave Ramsey, who's an international financial advisor guru, who's on 600 radio stations a day. I've met Dave a couple of times. I've been to his home for dinner in Tennessee, and Dave has been endorsing our practice here for 13 years. We're grateful for his endorsement, and it just means that I know how Dave thinks, which is let's advise people to do what's in their best interest and not put them into too much debt, or help them understand how the process of killing debt is. Dave's statement is that debt is dumb and cash is king. And I think in real estate, of course, there are reasons, financial reasons why we carry debt because of the tax benefits. And Dave understands that just like you and I do. There's a great bit to be learned through Dave. I would encourage you to consider listening to him. I host a weekly radio show. Whoops, I skipped forward. I host a weekly radio show. Let's see if I can go backwards. There we go. On WMAL. If you've never heard it, it's 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings. And if you do listen that early, you and my mother will be listening to me talk. All in all, we have 10 to 20,000 listeners every week. I've been on for a long time, and again, like this, I just shoot straight, tell it like it is. It's a half an hour. I have a good time, and I speak to the market and answer questions. Lastly, and this is where my heart is, I had been a theater major and studied economics in college, and I memorized the book of James in the New Testament, which James says in 1:27, pure religion is to look out for widows and orphans in their distress and to keep yourself from being polluted by the world. And James, for some reason, that particular part about looking out for widows just stayed with me. And when I got into real estate and I saw the challenges that widows and widowers faced, and the lack of cohesive effort outside of an individual church, synagogue, or mosque, I decided to create Widow Care, and we've been in operation since 2013. We have a couple hundred widows a year that are served, and what that looks like is we provide connection between widows and widowers for that mutual empathy and care, kind of following the Ruth and Naomi story of the book of Ruth and how they cared for each other. If you know somebody or have a heart to help widows, I invite you to check us out at widowcare.org. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. So let's see. Okay, great. Hey, Eileen, I see your comment here. Are you able to see and hear now on the webinar? Are you pretty much right here? Good, great. Hey, Willie, thanks so much. Yeah, try to be really straightforward. Upper right, small arrow in the red box, fabulous. Okay, so for you guys, if you're looking to make a comment today, upper right, small arrow in red box is where you would type in your question or just say, hey, I'm here. That lets me know that you're participating today and that I can speak to you directly. I will only use a first name today, and that way you will know I'm speaking to you as we're chatting through this. Good. Thanks so much for posting your questions also into that same box. All right, moving ahead. This is my operations team. I have a phenomenal group of folks that work for us at the Eric Stewart Group, and all of them play a very important role in either marketing. Mir Tabrizi and Rachel are running the marketing for our team. Most real estate agents have like a marketing person at the office. I have a full-time team devoted in search engine optimization, the delivery, the content, and the detail to make sure that what we're doing is excellent and that you get the best return. I presented offers yesterday on one of my listings we put on the market last week for $1 million, and we got offers well over $1 million. And the marketing was a big part of how we delivered that content and told the story. The rest of the team is all in support. Let's cover the agents briefly. These are the real estate agents in our group. So we have a tight group. We do not have a massive team of real estate agents that are just, just like all over the place in their capabilities. We are very, very slow to hire, and we're very conscientious about assigning caring, loving, and honest individuals who understand the practice of real estate and do an excellent and thorough job for our clients. So this is our group, and we are licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And we're grateful to be so successful as a team. We're licensed in those 3 jurisdictions, but you may be joining me today getting information. Maybe you've got a place that's somewhere outside of this area, and if you do, and you need a good realtor, we can help you. What we provide is the back end vetting, qualifying, interview process for homeowners and home buyers so that we make an introduction to somebody who's really, really competent outside of our area. And those real estate agents send us a little something at settlement to say thanks for referring us, and that's completely above board, and I'm making it clear. You'll always know with me and my group if there's any personal interest in anything we are recommending. So this team, we oversee your process to make sure that you're helped on the buy and sell elsewhere, and you've got that accountability, which is nice for you. To us, the majority of our homes sell in 10 days or less at 100% of list price. Now, that isn't that significant this year as it has been as a number. Our average days in the market right now is 8, and our average percent of list price is 106 average. So we're busting it out of the ballpark, but this has been the average for us for 5 to 6 years in a row now. All right, so who are you and I here in this conversation? Meaning, you look at this picture, you see the guy who's showing this couple and talking with them, like describing how the relationship will work. I rather wanted to start today by just saying, look, I'm here to care for you. So everything I talk about is what's in your best interest, okay? I provide obedience in my relationships, which I always get a little snicker from that, like, wow, that's great, that's obedience. Well, I see my role and the team's role, if you were to hire one of us to help you sell or buy, is to tell you what we think, but to do what you ask. That's the nature of what that means. We are accountable, loyal. We follow full disclosure. We treat all parties the same, regardless of sex, creed, color, etc. According to the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, the American with Disabilities Act of 1990, and all addenda. So our fiduciary is to look out for you, and I'm approaching all the things I'm recommending here today from that perspective. I'm not trying to be presumptive, but I am assuming for the sake of our conversation that that's the kind of relationship that I have with each of you, and I wanted you to know that before we started. Okay, so hey, Kelvin, glad you could join us. Thanks so much. So how do you prepare your house when everybody looks like this? Well, fortunately, we're all moving along and getting better, but coronavirus has still brought in some friction into our flywheel of selling homes fast and for top dollar. And so to do so effectively in the preparation, which is where we're going to start today, we'll do the coffee portion at the end. The downsizing, decluttering, and staging are 3 components of your preparation. And I've broken these out, and I have defined this process for the first time. I don't think it's ever been defined this way ever in all the research that I've done. And what's important about this is that sometimes we get confused, and please give me an amen if this is true. We sometimes get confused about what this process looks like to get ready. We get stuck emotionally with what we have. We don't know how to let it go, to much less actually go through better decluttering to then maybe add things in or move things around in the house to show the home better, right? So I today want to cover the 3 different ways you might downsize, and you'll hear me use the word right size because that's there's a guide I've written called Right Sizing Guide, and I want to invite you, if you're interested and want a copy of it, you can download a copy at ericstewartgroup.com, and you can see my website name at the bottom right-hand corner. Or we can mail you a hard copy. If you are a preferable reader with something in your hands, you can write with a pen, no problem, free, absolutely free, no postage. Just type into the question bar of your GoToWebinar control panel, type in there that you'd like a copy, and then just type your address in. Nobody else here can see that except for me and my team. If you type your address in, it's just meant for us to be able to share that guide with you and send it out to you. And I'm bringing that up today because this guide I've written over a 12-year period to address this whole process. And the things I'll cover in today's webinar are a part and parcel to the right sizing guide, and will be a nice visual reminder of this portion of our conversation. So again, just feel free, if you want a copy, I'll mail it to you. Just put your name and address into the GoToWebinar control panel, and I'll drop that in the mail to you. And okay, so there are 3 different ways you can downsize. You got to consider who could help you in that process, and how am I actually going to go through the process. Let's focus on that first. The decluttering is the how do I get rid of this stuff, but we need to think about that downsizing process first before we can really focus just on decluttering. And what are the 5 things you can do with anything you own? And then the GNOME method is my method for picking up any item in your home and deciding that you don't need it anymore, or you do need it, or you don't know if you need it, but you know that you have come pretty close to that decision. Very important, these 2 things in decluttering that'll help you in that process. And then the staging, what are the benefits of actually staging a house? Really, what does it do for you? And then staging options are virtual and vacant home staging. I'm so excited to share that information with you too. So we'll get to that shortly. All right, good. So all right, so if you and I looked just at the downsizing process first, you have 3 ways you can downsize, and that doesn't mean necessarily you have to sell your home, okay? You can intermove manage your existing home and downsize yourself within your existing home by moving yourself into a smaller space within your home, and then possibly using the other portions of your home to generate income through rental. The movement of the items that you have, this would be downsizing the stuff. Let's say you've got too many books. You've got 4 bookshelves in the living room. You've got bags of stuff that are lining the hallway of your home because you haven't had a chance to really get them cleaned up. Aren't we always decluttering and downsizing? I mean, I went into this one couple's house, Jim and Phyllis, and they invited me in. I was referred over to them, and they needed to sell. They were about 8 months away from getting ready to go on the market. And I went in their home. I walked in the front door, and the foyer was full of bags, like as if Purple Heart was coming by. And I said, well, that's great. You guys are organized. Well, we're trying. And I thought, well, that's a common phrase. I hear that. We're trying because we're always trying, right? So they walked me in the family room. There's stuff in the family room. I look over at the kitchen. The kitchen counters are just packed. No, there's no judgment for me about this because we all live differently. And God bless America. We can live here the way we want to. And there's not a moral decision in how you choose to live within your home, whether you have a lot of stuff or a little bit of stuff. It's just how you want to live. That's your choice. When we're getting ready to sell, we then are, the way we live in our home, the way we stage and sell our homes are 2 different things, right? So as I walked down the hallway, there's stuff lining the hallway. I looked in the bedrooms to the left and right. This is a rambler, by the way, all on one floor. And stuff piled up on the beds. I go in the master. Stuff lining all the walls up onto the foot of the bed. There's stuff lining on the foot of the bed, like as if they climbed into the bed and the stuff at the foot would just sit there, and they would get up in the morning, make the bed, and the stuff would still be there. Walk into the master bath. It was one of these luxury bathrooms that has the big soaking tub. The soaking tub's full of stuff, like it's been there for a while. I walk over to the shower. It's got a separate shower. I open the door, and there's stuff hanging on hangers off of the shower head. And I turned around and looked at Phyllis, and she said, oh, don't worry. We take that out when we shower. I didn't laugh at her, but I chuckled inside. We live in a way in our homes, and we modify how we live in order to allow ourselves to keep things going in a certain way. And we cope. It's a great word, right? I mean, we all learn how to cope emotionally in difficult relationships. We all learn how to cope internally in our homes with how our partners live, or with what we have, or how much money we have. We're constantly working through that. So what I needed to help them see was that they had a process they needed to start in this downsizing, get rid of things, and then the decluttering side of it. So Jim and Phyllis had a basement that was full of stuff. They had no way they could move items out of their home and or into other parts of the house because the house was overwhelmed with stuff. But if your home has a full basement, a large storage room, and you can't get things out either because you don't have the money to move it out or the an energy, or you don't know yet if you're going to keep it, you can take it all downstairs, and that's inter-move management. Extra move management would be moving things out of your home, which might be giving them to the children if they'll take them, donating them, etc. And then virtual move management would be where we actually scrub the photos that we take of your home, of all the stuff that's in the room, and then we put virtual furniture into the space. And you'll see a little bit later a little bit of how we do this, so that maybe it's, life sometimes is more important than money. I think we would all say it's always more important than money to have life, right? But you understand, sometimes it's like, okay, I just want the process to be easy. I don't care about making every last dollar. So how can we achieve that? These are 3 different options on downsizing. And here are questions you can ask yourself. Do you have the space for that intermove management? If not, do you have the money to move it out to storage, maybe like a storage place nearby that you want to move it into temporarily? And lastly, do you have the time and the emotional energy to move the items out? All right. You might want to use this loading zone concept, which is to move your items into 5 areas. There's only 5 places you can put anything that you own, right? It can go into donation, give it to the family, keep it, sell it, or throw it away. And I created the loading zone as a concept to give you direction on how to create a spot to bring everything to in your home if you want to have kind of like a loading zone. Sometimes this is a bay in a garage, sometimes it is something else. The loading zone is really about keeping you organized and flowing. And donations and throwaways should always be at the front of that, because there's going to be more of that than other stuff. And you may find that you have too much in the keep area pretty soon, and then you need to move it out of that area into just a keep area for itself, etc. Or you may end up moving it into the keep area and then boxing it up and then moving those boxes into storage in your home, out of your home, etc. This is an example of intermove management. This couple's home I sold earlier this year for $60K over asking. They just moved their boxes into the middle of the floor from upstairs. This was an open room, and they just used this for storage. Extra would be moving company, junk haulers, trash pickup, offsite estate sales, donation locations, or professional move managers. Now, if you need names and numbers for some of these, I highly recommend you download the Preferred Vendors Guide here on my website that can give you some direction on those different resources. You can reach out to some of those folks. Just tell them that Eric Stewart referred you. That'll give you an extra in with them, and they know that when I'm involved that, they want to keep you happy, because I refer a lot of folks. I make nothing for any of this. I don't get paid anything for any referral you use, or when you mention my name, I don't get anything. The only way our group makes money here is by selling homes. That's it. So it keeps a very legitimate referral. I like people that work and do a good job. I don't get paid for making referrals. Okay. I've got a comment here from Willie. About a month ago, I helped a buddy move his stuff after he sold his townhouse in Ashburn. It took 5 days to haul it to the dump or storage container a short distance away. I suggested he jettison the clutter before he listed his house. He sold the townhouse sight unseen to a military couple being transferred from overseas. My buddy was fortunate to find such a buyer. I agree with you, Willie. He was fortunate. And the the truth is, right now, and this is a particular moment in time, the condition is irrelevant to selling the house quickly. Buyers are willing to take on homes that need a lot of work because there's just not enough for sale. I'm putting homes on the market. I just sold a home. It was as is. This was a big home in Potomac, Maryland, that was worth about, for the condition, was worth about $1 million, maybe $1.2 million. So we listed $1.188 million. which is just south of 2 because the number was good and I felt like it was an attractive number for the audience of prospects that I thought would be interested in that home. And we sold over $1.3 million, $1.350 in fact. And all, I mean, the dishwasher was broken, ice maker was broken, there was a cracked hearth, the fireplace didn't work, and there was a multitude of other things that were just not working. So when we put it up that way, we told people that was the case, and they said, we don't care. We're in that kind of market right now. So timing trumps condition. As we were talking about this staging aspect, if you're going to sell right now, don't worry so much about all this, because the virtual move, we talked about that virtual move management, which I'll show you later. We can overcome the stuff and get it up for sale now, and I can keep you in your home through the end of August, no problem, if you need more time. So just let us know if that's where you're at, and we'll be glad to give you a market evaluation, tell you how that would work, and an as is without you having to do the work and still get top dollar. But assuming the market loses some of this frothiness that we have right now, because it will, we're looking at this overall plan, which may be for those of you who are a year or 2 years out. And I think the market's going to continue to climb in pricing, but there is this frothy thing that happens as people are just anxious and afraid. And then that settles back once there's more inventory to call everybody to calm. And then things baseline a little bit. And then there's that anxiety that builds up, and then there's a frothiness again. So questions on anything I just said, please type it into the GoToWebinar control panel. Willie, thanks for that story. Look at this, is virtual move management. This is a home in Oak Hill, Virginia that we sold last year. And clearly this gentleman had more than enough clothes to wear every day for probably 2 or 3 or 4 months. And he, although I had asked him to declutter, and this was his decluttered picture on the left, we felt it was better for him to sell the size of the closet with the picture on the right than have it be sort of overrun with clothes on the left. So we scrubbed the photo that shows that completely empty space. So when people walked in, they saw the closet in use, but they saw the image online, which got them the sense of the size. And we measured the closet so they could see the square footage of the closet online before they came to see the house. Laudine says, friends did an online estate sale. It was productive. That's right. Thank you, Laudine. In fact, there are companies like Max Sold, other companies like that do online estate sales, and they'll take pictures of all the things that you want to sell, but you're not bringing strangers in. And then the winning bidder is a much larger audience, and then those items get shipped out. Worthwhile consideration. Thank you, Laudine. Oops, I skipped one there. So let's go back. This is a virtual move management picture that shows, this is the furniture in this room. This is just how this room looked. We scrubbed this furniture out and we dropped all this virtual furniture in. And doesn't the picture on the right really help you get a sense of the space and of how that space really is accented by this? So I think that what we have here is a great new technology application. Because when I've done this now, and then when I've added in these easels with posters here, okay, these posters are posters showing what the virtual image was online. As they walk into a vacant home, they're reminded of what they saw online and how that space could be used based upon what they saw online, but they walk in and they see it actually vacant. It does two things for us. It allows the buyer to actually walk the full space, but also get the scale of what the space could be used for from the pictures. Let's jump into decluttering. Anybody have any other questions on downsizing? Feel free to type those in. The no method is, if you say yes to at least 2 out of 3, put it in your keep area within your loading zone. Do you need it? Do you love it? Do you use it? Here we've got a gnome on the left, which a neighbor has on their front porch in the springtime, and it actually performs a function of saying welcome. It's kind of nice, actually. It's the nicest gnome I've ever seen, which is why I took this picture of it. Most gnomes sit in a garden. They're more ornamental and don't really serve any purpose other than just being there to be like, that's cute. Well, this is cute, but it's also sort of practical. But you might have things, I mean, think about it, medications, right? You need them, you use them. Do you love them? Well, maybe you love them because they help you stay alive, right? So all three yeses, obviously you keep it. But maybe you have an item, and I'll show you an example in a moment of items where you love them, but you don't need them and you don't really use them anymore. How do you approach that? But perhaps you love an item and you use it. Like I have a spatula spreader that I got from Cutco, and it's like the knife I go to. If anybody else have a Cutco spatula spreader, it's like the best knife in the world. Bowling ball material handle, perfectly balanced. It's got a serrated edge on one side, a little spreading action, so I can grab the peanut butter out and spread it. Same thing with the honey. You know, it's just a great tool. I need it. I need something like it. I don't need that one, but I love it and I use it. So definitely going to keep that. But I've got more than enough knives that I really don't use and I don't need. So those are going to go the way of the dinosaur. So if you're decluttering, you remember the loading zone. There are just 5 places you can put anything. So you can take it with you, give it to your family, sell it, donate it, or throw it. Let's talk for a moment about 2 of the items here. Let's look at this painting here. This is like an 1880, 1890 family painting idea, where maybe you have something you received from your Aunt Millie or from your father that was your grandfather's and your great grandfathers before him, and you happen to inherit it. And now you're at that phase where it's like, you know, I love this because of the family, but I don't have the space where I'm going anymore. I'm going to give it to my family. Why not, with the painting, why not shoot a video of that painting and you talking about that painting and what it meant to you in your life and what you remember about how it was passed to you from the previous generation? And then as you pass it to the family member you choose to give it to, they have that video, and guess what? You have that video. So you'll remember the painting, but you won't have it on your wall anymore. And that'll keep your memory alive, which is important for our lives, right? We keep the memories going. But you let the memory keep living without keeping the item, and that could be true of anything you want to give away to your family. Maybe like my mom and dad set up tables in their living room. They put everything on these card tables and dining room table and so on, all the things they no longer wanted. And my sister, my brother, and I walked through. And my dad and mom says, okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll let Heather, she's the youngest, she'll pick first. She gets one item. Eric, you pick second because you're the second youngest, you know, second middle child. And then your brother will choose after that. Then the second round, I picked first. Then my brother picked. Then my sister picked. Then the third round, my brother picked. You see what I'm saying? But 80% was left behind that none of us wanted. But 20% went with us. And if there was something my sister wanted, then I took a picture of it, or she could take a picture of what I was taking so she could keep the memory for herself. But my mother and father, most of that was just tchotchke. If my mother and dad were giving me anything of significance, they were also giving that to me with some understanding of where it came from. Now, if we put it on short video, it stays alive. And think 150 years from now, folks. So 4 or 5 generations from now, that painting is now being passed to that generation. And 150 years earlier, there's that video of you sharing the story about how it was received and the stories behind it to the best of your knowledge. And, you know, then you have a generational history that makes your history of your family much more engaging and memorable and important for the whole family. Maybe you have a bowling ball like this over here on the right, which is a purple bowling ball, and you know why you got it, I don't know, but you know, let's say you had it, but it's time to get rid of it. Maybe you shoot a video about that bowling ball. You know, maybe you bought it in '76 when you were wearing these pants on the left. Maybe you want a contest, and it's sort of like, okay, it's time to let go. I don't need that anymore. I'm not gonna, it's too heavy or whatever. But just tell the story. Shoot a video about it, let it go, even if it's going to donation, because it's funny and it's part of your life. And you can watch that video. You know, I have an Apple computer and I've got an Apple phone, and if I shoot something here, it just automatically shows up in my photos, and I've got my videos, and I can go back now 15, 16 years and look at all the pictures that my kids had before that. And I can't see them, the ones that are before that, because they were all hard copies, right? But after that, I've got everything online, including all the videos of my kids dancing and stuff like that. So you keep that memory alive going forward. Any questions on this? A lady that we had worked with to sell her home had 100 antique perfume bottles. So she ended up taking pictures. Now, this is just our representation of what she told us she did because we didn't see the poster, but she created a poster with 100 antique perfume bottles representing the 100 that she had, but she let 95 go after that and just took 5 with her, her 5 favorite. But then that poster hung on her wall, and then she kept the poster without keeping the bottles, and therefore she was able to let go of the stuff. Just a thought. Now, staging, we virtually capture interest with staging. And there's in-person enables vision, scale, and there's romance. And so the before and after of actual staging, and this is a sample of what we did moving furniture around within a space. This is what we typically think of as staging. We have a staging prescription. So this is a sample. When we are hired to represent a home seller, we have our staging expert come through to advise on what should be downsized, decluttered, and then how the space should be staged. So you end up with a prescription. There's my doctor's background, staging prescription for what to do and how to focus on it. And this is the reality of this. You have a prescription here that now enables you to follow a pattern and go through it. Remember Jim and Phyllis? We gave them that prescription, and it was going to take more than a few months for them to get ready, and that was fine. They wanted to get ready to put it on the market about 8 months later. So we came back, and this is what your agent would do from our group, would come back after 4 or 5 weeks and see how it's going and give you some additional coaching at that time. Come back again a month to 5 weeks later and do the same thing. In other words, we want to help you. And selling your home is the goal ultimately to get the best price, but there's also this process. And our seniors real estate specialists, if you have a lot of stuff, will assist you in this process and give you that coaching. We can do outside virtual staging. We can we recommend cutting trees when they block the outside of a home to show the true space. This is not a huge home. It shows this front porch. Here we got the driveway cleaned. So this was virtually done to show, because the leaves had blown from the night that we got everything ready to the next morning, the leaves were falling last fall for this listing. So we cleaned it up virtually. We don't change the condition on the outside. We don't actually make a house look like it's been painted when it hasn't been. We simply recommend outside what you should focus on. And if you're going to get ready to go on the market right now, it's okay. I'm settling a home next week that has painted peeling all over and that kind of thing. And, the market is very forgiving right now. But if you have time to do it, it's generally worth it putting $1 into outside staging to get $2 back in price. I showed you a few of these examples. So this is where we took a vacant basement, we virtually staged it, and then we put an easel in this space as well. Same thing, this is that house that we showed earlier, but this is a different room. So this is how it looked online, this is how it looked in reality. You saw this image earlier. So, this is, again, the scrubbing. So if you look at getting your home on the market and what it means to get on the market, before you know it, if you follow that pattern, you'll be ready to get your home on the market. The Market Ready Guide is a free publication like the right sizing guide we offered earlier that has graphs in there that show the best time to sell, questions to ask a realtor before you hire one. It also covers our quiet listing approach for selling. Maybe your home is overwhelmed with stuff. The only way to actually sell it, you feel, is to do it more quietly, more discreetly, or maybe privately because you don't want people coming through. We have some great tools and can cover that, and much of that's covered in this guide. If you want a copy, we'll mail it to you. You can also download a copy at ericstewartgroup.com. If you want a copy mailed, again, I invite you for free, just type in your name and your address in the GoToWebinar questions bar, and we'll mail a copy of the Market Ready Guide to you. And for those of you who requested the right sizing guide, if you want a copy of this and you don't have one already, just type in, I'd like a copy of the MRG, and we'll mail this also to you, okay? All right, good. Now, I'll give you a free competitive market analysis. Just call our number or shoot an email. Go to our website here to request that. And I'm sorry, let me skip back there for a second. So again, just 1-800-900-9104 if you want to call us, or shoot an email to aoc@ericstewartgroup.com, and we'll set up a time to come see you. Next Thursday at 10:30, we have our webinar called Timing. Like these surfers who catch the waves, they have to look for the wave coming, get up on the wave, and then ride the wave in and go back and do the same thing. We want to help you understand how to catch that wave. And that's a very interesting deep dive into timing specifically. And if you want to attend for that and would like for us to answer any specific questions you might have about that, feel free to type them in today. We'll bring them forward to next week, or you can do it when you're online next week. ericstewartgroup.com for all the information we have about our group there too. So I'm going to go back here. This is our contact information. And I'm going to take time now to go into our Coffee with Eric Stewart portion of today's meeting. So in 1987, I entered the real estate market. I was 23 years old, just graduated from college, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Although I'd studied acting and was an acting major, I didn't want to be an actor. And I'd always been good at sales. And when I got in the business of selling real estate that summer of '87, I, like most agents, had to figure out what it meant to be a realtor and figure out what was going on with the market. And rates were at about 10.5% at that time. And I guess a 1-year ARM was like 9% or 9.25% or something really, really high, right, compared to today. And the market was in an upward swing. Prices had gone up about 30% at that point in time, from 1985 to 1987. And in that fall of '87, I started listing houses because I got my abilities down to do it. In '88, the market was jumping in '88 by 15%, 18%. And it was a market, I would say, kind of similar to what we're experiencing now, in a lack of inventory for the demand, which saw prices jump dramatically. And so remember, there's a compounding impact in increase. So prices had jumped 30%. So if you had a $500,000 home in 1987 and it had jumped by 30%, it was at that point up to 650 from its original baseline. So if it's at 650 now and it jumps by 18%, it goes to 767. And then the next year in '89, which was our peak for the market, it jumped another 20%. We saw prices up to about 920. And in other words, you see this jumping action where all of a sudden people perceive that the value is in fact higher. They're willing to believe it might be possible. And the first ones who jump at it are the ones who bring the market there. And we've experienced that last fall, and again this spring. We saw a rise back in January, February. We saw a bigger rise in late March and especially in April. So I put a home on the market last Thursday at $1 million, and I got two offers, one at $1.1 million and one at $1.175 million. Two buyers desperate for a house. There's not 15 buyers looking to buy that house, but there's two people willing to push the envelope and cure the appraisal, which means that if the property appraised for less than the sales price, they would make up the difference out of their pockets. So that will go to closing. You wonder, why would you not accept the one at $1.175 million? Well, clearly that's the direction we went. But the buyer's willing to cure the appraisal. Then in that neighborhood where values were about $1 million, they're now up here at $1.175 million, assuming somebody else is willing to do that. And that's actually what we're experiencing. The last 3 homes sold in the neighborhood have jumped dramatically higher, and they're settling at those numbers. Okay, so that just brings you forward to the overall tenor of the market, right? So let's speak now about where we are within this rise. Now, my opinion is that we're still at an early stage of inflation for real estate. And the reason I feel that and believe that is that I've looked at the charts for inventory, which have dropped from 12,000 homes 4 years ago to 4,000 homes currently on the market. And granted, some of that is exacerbated by people wanting to stay in their homes due to COVID, but there's still not enough housing stock being created. I saw a chart the other day where we only created new homes last year about a sixth of the normal number of homes built last year during COVID. That's it. That's all. So what can we do with that except for face the reality? There's less houses, and either we get a house now or we get a house later for more money. Or the rate goes from 3% fixed rate to 4% because inflation has jumped into such drama. You know what I'm saying? So you have, I think, if I look at a 30% rise at this point from our price a couple of years ago, I think prices have more room to go to the upside, and they could go up another 60 or 70% potentially, as long as the income is there to support it. And the income will be there to support it if people's incomes rise. People's incomes will rise because they insist on being paid more, because the demand for the services that they offer is so great that people are, the buyers of their services say, I've got to get it done. I will pay you what I need to pay you to get it accomplished. I'll pay you a bonus to finish it. Now, all of a sudden, inflation jumps into these industries because the demand is greater than the supply of labor or the supply of materials. You've heard this, a piece of drywall has gone up dramatically, but a piece of lumber has doubled in the past year. Copper's up. All the major back-end needed pieces to build a house have gone up. I met with a builder last week who was looking at 2 lots that I'm selling for a seller, and he told me he's had a 10% increase in the cost of construction in a year, and he's got quite a few homes under contract at old prices where things were locked in for the home buyer, the person who's building a house and wants that house built for them. They've locked in a price for what the end cost is going to be for that house, and what that's doing is squeezing the profit of the builder. The builder has to increase the next round of homes from 10, but not just by the 10% more, but by 20% to make up the difference in the profit, right? You're not going to do something in business unless there's a profit to feed your family. We're still, unless, I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? Okay, let's think about it. Like, people think, well, the market's got to crash. The market's got to come down. There's no way. People can't afford this. Where are these buyers getting all this money? There is so much money in our system right now that's just been pumped in order to, keep the patient alive during COVID. Trillions of dollars came into our system, came into supporting and the stock market's gone up, and people have just been throwing money into things. Well, at the end of the day, that money, if people have more money to spend and they didn't have to have that money, now they can turn around and buy the things they want, and now that demand has increased. And so by pumping the money into our system, more money has come in, which has increased demand. And if the current president were to get his $6 trillion plan passed, what do you think is going to happen then? Whether you agree or you don't agree with the idea is sort of irrelevant. I'm just asking the basic question. If all of a sudden there's $6 trillion additional cash going into everybody having enough money, then everybody's got enough money. And everybody who didn't need more money has more money. They can do more with the money they now have. And the person who now has money that needed money has more money, but the thing that they wanted to buy now costs more because they're competing with the same people, and inflation increases. And now it costs more for everything. And what have we gained? we've kept the patient alive, but we've squeezed the lower class and the middle class, I think. You know, I think there's a calling card. You know, there's a day where we're gonna have to face the music, so to speak, where we're gonna have to come to terms with the inflation of the M1. That's the amount of money that floats through our system. And just as Paul Volcker did back in the early 80s, there's going to be a pulling back of the availability of cash, and that contraction is going to be very, very painful. We can't continue to grow our debt this way, but we keep thinking, okay, well, eventually it'll happen, and eventually it will happen, but eventually, you know, when will that happen? I just say to all of us, you and I are each one of us individuals who have our own savings, income, livelihood, debts, etc. And within the greater economy of our country, you and I are going to face the reality of greater inflation, I believe, going forward. And it's going to take more money out of our pocket to buy the same things because of the competition to get it, or the value of the dollar is going to decline. And therefore, if you're on a fixed income, that income is going to have to increase, right? Okay. When prices jumped between 85 and 90, 1985 and 1990, we saw a decrease in the cost of money from 85 through 90 from about 15% interest to about 8.5% interest. That was a huge decrease in what it cost to borrow money. And folks had income. Their incomes had risen dramatically in the 70s because of the massive inflation that had occurred. And then as the cost of money came down, that allowed that income to support more debt, and the market took off and prices doubled for real estate. Between 2000 and 2006, prices doubled and tripled in some areas because we dropped from about 6.5%, 6.75%, 7% in that range, down to you know, around what, 5.5 to 6. But also we saw a lot of introductory interest rates through products that were introduced into the economy that allowed marginal buyers and investors to jump in and margin themselves through risk, which damaged our economy greatly because they didn't have the ability to support what they had taken the risk on, assuming that the rates were probably going to stay low and they could simply refinance in the future. And that didn't happen. There was a credit crisis, a very different experience in 2008. We had a credit crisis, and now borrowers are borrowing money much more carefully because the banks are demanding to see, even up to the day before they close, that everything is perfect in their ability, the savings that they have. It's much more difficult to be a borrower now than it was then. And we don't have the inventory. We haven't created the inventory. So we have better qualified buyers. We have less inventory. We're probably going to have inflation for all of us. And all of these things lead me to believe that prices are going to continue to climb. Now, could anything happen in this? Could all of a sudden rates go to 5.5% overnight? It could happen. If the treasuries stop getting purchased, rates will jump through the ceiling, which will put a real damper on the purchase of real estate. It'll cause a lot of people who are buying because it was low money to not be able to buy, but there still will be buyers buying because, you know, again, the difference, let me give you an example. If you have $500,000 borrowed right now at 3%, you're talking $2,105 a month in the principal and interest. If you were to increase that, let's say to 6%, okay, you're talking about $3,000 a month PI at 6%. Again, at 500,000 at 4.21, that's 2,100. If we go from 3% to 6%, you're going to go from $2,100 a month to $3,000 a month. That's a 50% increase even though the rate has gone up 100%. It's just the way the calculations work when you're borrowing money and paying it over a 30-year term. So it's a 50% increase. Will there be borrowers who would still pay $3,000 a month plus the taxes and insurance? And if there was no inventory, of course, there's going to be plenty of buyers at that because there's just not enough inventory to support it. So I'm a holder of real estate more than a seller of real estate right now in terms of investing. I'm a buy and hold versus let's get this done. You're on the cup. If you think of a cup with a handle, the left-hand side of that cup was a peak, and then the market settles down and troughs along the bottom and then climbs up the other side and gets back to the previous peak. And that's where we were a year and a half ago. Then we had a handle, which is a slight downward trend in overall market that was created by COVID actually in the situation. And once COVID, the doors opened and people were willing to go out with masks on, we've seen that jump that we saw in 85 and we saw again in 2000, 2001 happen again now. And we're on the rise on the left-hand side of that cup right now. So I think there's 2 more years of this market. I'm confident that we have 1 more year of this market. I can't judge completely to 2 years, but generally that would be the trend. It would be a 3 to 4 year cycle of massive bull rise with a settling back over a 5 to 7 year period after that. We settled back from 2009 through 2016, 7 years, and then we saw a slight increase back up. So I think we've got a ways to go, and what will happen, what will bring this train into the station is a change in the economic climate due to interest rate jumps and economic strength because of weakness in the economy, an increase in the supply due to that overwhelms the current demand at that time, which I don't see happening for another 6 or 7 years. That's, unless there's an incredible amount of building that goes on, I just don't see that yet. And then the unknown is, a pandemic, which causes everybody's economy to just sort of shut back again, like we had experienced. But that would be temporary, unless it was really, really horrible, right? But we don't bank on the 1%, right? We bank on the 99. The 99% chance of what something's going to do. If you take a flyer on a stock for the 1% chance it's going to go from 50 cents to $5, well, that's, you're deciding to take your money and bet on a 1% chance. I tell my sellers when I'm sitting across the table from them and I've got a $1,100,000 offer and a $1,105,000 offer, but the $1,100,000 offer has no financing contingency, we don't want to risk the sale for the extra 5K. That's the 1%. We want to get the 99%, right? All right, so that's my opinion. I'd love your questions on the back end of this. Please type those into the GoToWebinar control panel in the questions bar. That'll be up in the right red box. Just type it in. I'll be glad to give answers. I've got a couple things that have come up. Tim says there are too few homes for sale in Leesburg for the number of realtors. Realtors are calling homeowners, scaring them into selling. They claim you better sell now before the collapse. That's just crazy. Honestly, that is disturbing. Tim, I would really like to hear more about that. I actually think that is a worthwhile conversation for you and I to have. Has anybody else here gotten that kind of call? One told my wife she sold her listing for 125 over list. I replied, then the realtor didn't price it right. That's funny. Yeah, I'm so sorry that you're getting that kind of call. There is a lot of that scare. You know why? Because what you said at first, there's too many real estate agents for too little product. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the business I have. Guys, I mean this sincerely. It has been the best year of my career this year. And the number of leads that I've gotten and the number of opportunities to represent home sellers has been really a great thing. And I'm so grateful. My family's grateful, and the team that I have is grateful. We're not cold callers like that. We don't call people and scare people into things. I just try to give you straight answers like I've done today, and we appreciate your consideration. You know, you want to interview multiple realtors, we would just ask that we be one of those that you interview, okay? If you're not ready, you're thinking, when should I? Again, I think unless you're moving up within this market, if you're moving down and trying to get to North Carolina because you're making a move, well, the market's on fire there. It's on fire around the country, right? If you're moving someplace else and you need to pull the cash in order to accomplish that move, of course, move. If you're thinking, I'd like to sell, but I don't know whether this is the right time, I would advise you to have us come out, prepare a market evaluation for you. And maybe what we do, and we're doing this with other homeowners, is that we work with you to get ready for next spring, giving you that guidance on the downsizing, the decluttering, and the staging, and working towards the process of getting ready for next spring. And then next spring, in February or January, we have a powwow about whether we should wait another year or not. If this is a massive part of your overall retirement, you know, selling it early, you can feel great in the moment because of what prices were, but then you'll think later, oh God, I missed an upside. It's the unknown that causes us to want to move. I would say right now, don't move unless you know you're moving to something else or have a particular plan of action. Like, let's say you're moving to a retirement community, you know, and you need the money out and you've got your place ready. Well, you know, this is just the reality of the life. The fact is the retirement community entry fees will go up because the demand is going to be there and their inflation is going to creep in there too. So your situation is important to me individually, and if you'd like to chat about that, let me know. Got another comment here. Tim, thanks for this. None of the Leesburg realtors try to market our unique assets. USA Soccer Training Center, USA Figure Skating Training Center, USA Junior Hockey Training Center. They just take listings and post it to the MLS. Tim, Warren Buffett, price is what you pay, value is what you get. You hit it on the head there. Agents think this is just a chance for them to get some easy money a lot of times. And it's the ability to sell the value of what I call the ASLO, which is the accessibility of the house, the siting, the location, and all the benefits that come with it, like the things you just mentioned. The orientation of the home, whether it's east to west, south, north, etc. And then the elevation. Does it have that the columns up the front? Does it have the New Orleans style second floor balcony or a Dutch colonial, which all add or subtract to value based on demand? These are all considerations that you as a homeowner need to consider when you're marketing. And another comment, I'm glad lumber rose in price. Wood 2x4s cost more than steel now, and termites don't eat steel. I can get a steel stud framed house for less than wood now. That's amazing. One more comment on the Leesburg market. It might plateau, but not retrace unless there was a significant disruption to the economy. Agreed. Got a comment from Wayne. I took your advice and plan to sell my condo in February of next year, as you suggested. Living in my vacation home near Suffolk, Virginia for the spring and summer, planning to come back in September to continue the preparation process. I'm hoping that it'll become frothy again in February, with a smiley face on the back end of that comment. And lastly, he said, if anything changes in the condo market, please let me know. I sure will. Right, so the frothiness will come because the demand is there, and I believe it's going to be there. There's always this fear that comes with a little bit of settling that maybe the market's over. And then all the people who said, see, I was waiting for the market to change, I'm going to wait for it to fall a little bit. Then they get shocked again because the demand is there still, and there's still not enough supply, and then they regret not moving into it earlier. There's a fear of loss that occurs when we have a gain, and there's a fear of loss when we think we're going to miss a gain. Right? The missing a gain is, I'm afraid if I don't get in now, I'll miss the gain on the upside. And there's a fear that I have the gain, I want to take it. And when you're a home seller, the fear, I have the gain and I want to preserve it, is a more likely fear. Whereas the buyer fear is, I better get in or I'll miss the opportunity. And when that fear on the buyer side is greater than the fear on the left-hand side, the seller side, it's working in your favor. And that's where we are too right now. Tim also said, higher rates might slow sales, but should not collapse existing house prices as long as buyers have money, if inflation also inflates wages. Loudoun County is not allowing many single-family homes. They are pushing attached homes and cluster neighborhoods. Finding a quarter fence lot will be rarer and rarer. I agree. And the scare tactics of Leesburg realtors is why I tell my wife I will refuse to list with her, quote, friends. Okay. Willie said, wife and I have gotten plenty of calls asking to list my house in Leesburg, but no one has threatened or attempted to scare us. Well, that's good, Willie. Thanks for that. Laudine asks, if a part of the house is dated and could do with an upgrade, do it or not, like a kitchen or bathroom? Laudine, look at the integrity of the whole house. If you've already done your kitchen, if you've already done the master and you've got a hall bath that's dated into the 70s or the 80s, probably want to bring that up to the level of the other major places in the house. Laudine, you're welcome to send me an email, and you can send it to that AOC and just say, hey, I've got a question for Eric. Here are some pictures of the rooms. Take those pictures and attach it to your email and send it to me. And I'll give you my advice just remotely. I won't even have to come over and see you to give you that initial sense of what I'd recommend, okay? And then she said, or just a new fridge or glass top stove. Your best money in kitchens is going to be in countertops, in a newer style countertop with an undermount sink and a nice faucet. Then it's going to be painting the cabinets. If it's an old style cabinet that is white is really popular right now, and then new knobs. The floor doesn't have to be anything exceptional, but just doesn't want to be stuck in sort of a 1970s tile. And then the appliances, moving into a stainless steel. Feel free to, again, send me those pictures, Laudine, AOC@ericstewartgroup.com, and I'll take a look at those and get back to you. Tim says, I want to move to the Villages in Florida in 3 years. Their market is hot as DC, but the developer's planning 50,000 new homes in the next 10 years, 4,000 to 5,000 per year. So I think the Villages market will cool down faster than DC. Yeah, I believe you're right. I think you're right about that. Wayne says, thanks, Eric. Hey, you're welcome. Good. Yeah. So, hey, this has been great, guys. Any other questions? Laudine, you're welcome. Any other questions for me on the back end? I'm going to give you guys just a chance to see me here. I'll turn on my camera. So let's see if I can do that. I think that'll do it. Okay, here I am. So it's nice to see you all. I'm sitting here in my office and glad to be here and glad to see you guys. So if you guys have questions or you'd like to talk with me or talk with one of my team members, have them come out and take a look at your home and recommend what we would do and how we would handle that. Again, we appreciate that. That's what our business is. You know that. And our toll free is 800-900-9104. You can send an email to AOC@ericstewartgroup.com with your questions, or if you desire to have a visit, and we'll get right back to you on that. All right, assuming that there are no other questions from anybody, I will say adieu and thank you so much for being with me today. I hope to see you next week. Thursday, we'll have our timing webinar. We'll cover specific what time of the year is the best time to put the house on the market and why, and much more. Have a great day and thanks again.